All right, Andrew. In this video, we're going to number one talk about the professional pitcher that we're going to use as your comparison, and then number two, we're going to talk about some improvements that you've made since May 8th, which is one of the first times that you worked with us. Now, first of all, let's talk about the professional that I've chosen to compare you to, and that's Curt Schilling here, who is without question going to be a Hall of Famer. He won a couple of Cy Youngs with one with Arizona and one with Boston, and he even won a couple of World Series. You're going to look here on the right-hand side at Curt Schilling, and you're going to see his arm angle that I'm drawing with the green line. And then I'm drawing a circle where the ball's coming out of his hand. And the reason I'm doing that is because this is the first reason why I chose Curt Schilling as your comparison. Because you're going to notice that your arm angle is very similar to Curt Schilling's, and where the ball comes out of your hand is very similar to Curt Schilling. And when I'm using professional pitchers to compare to kids and to young players, one of the things I look for is a similar arm angle, because this is something that we don't change on any pitcher. The arm slot and the release point are natural things. The other things, like the glove positioning, the legs, the momentum, those are things that we can make adjustments on, but we don't change the arm slot. All right, now the second reason why I chose to use Curt Schilling as your comparison is because both of you guys are big, strong pitchers. You got a lot of potential to throw the ball hard, and you have a nice, strong frame. And that was the same thing with Curt Schilling. So I think you have some potential to get some velocity out of your delivery. And you can see there, as I play this through a couple of times, some similarities in your delivery. All right, so with that in mind, let's go ahead and pull up your side view. And when we pull up the side view, we're going to address some things that you've done better as a pitcher. So we'll go ahead and put this up, and then we're going to pull up Curt Schilling's side view on the right-hand side. And then we're going to kind of focus on the one major point of this lesson. And the thing that we're going to focus on here is we're going to focus on what we do to create momentum. And I want to begin by just drawing a green line behind Curt Schilling's back foot, back hip, and back knee. Okay? And we're going to draw that same green line behind your back foot, back hip, and knee right there. And then we're going to put a dot where his eyes are, and we're going to put that same dot where your eyes are. And one of the things we want to do as a pitcher is we want to create a weight shift towards home plate before we separate our hands and go to throw. And so you'll see here that Curt Schilling lifts his knee to the top, and as he does that, he's going to thrust his hip towards the target, as you can see right there, all before he's broken his hands. So before Curt Schilling even breaks his hands right here, you can see that front hip thrusting towards the catcher. You can see that his eyes have gone further towards home plate, and you'll notice how much his back hip and his back knee has separated from that original line where they started. So if we go back, you're going to see all these factors in play all at once. The head's going to track forward as he lifts. He's going to thrust his hips and drive off his back leg before he separates the ball from his glove. Now, if we take a look on the left-hand side with you, you're going to notice a little bit of a difference, and this is back in May when we videotaped you. So there's your knee lift, and there's your hand separation. And you can see here, number one, your eyes really have not tracked forward at all. Very little. And number two, we're not really leading with our rear end or our front hip. Okay? And number three, there's not a lot of separation or leg drive from this original green line. If you look at the angle of his back leg, how he's pushing off his back leg here, you can see that that's quite different from where you were at when we first videotaped you. You can see that angle right there. And now let's take a look at the angle with your leg here. Big difference. So when we first started working with you, you really weren't creating any momentum or drive off your leg to get to a good throwing position. And as a result, you're going to see a big difference when Curt Schilling lands on his front foot compared to what you look like when you land. So if we get Curt Schilling right there into his foot strike position, his front foot's on the ground, as you can see. All right. Notice how his shoulder stays pointed towards the target. And notice how his elbows are equally lined up. This is a good power position to throw from. He gets to this position at the right time when his foot lands because he creates the right type of momentum down the mound. He's driving as far and as fast as he can towards the catcher so he can be in sync, arms and feet, when the front foot lands. Now, when you go to land here back in May, you're going to see right there, notice how your glove side arm is already completely opened up and your shoulder is going in this direction. And as a result, you're not in as powerful a position as you could be if you would have created more momentum. So let's keep that in mind, because next what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pull up the improvements that you've made. So this is a video that we made in June that I'm going to pull up on the right hand side, and we're going to keep in mind those same principles. So we're going to get you guys back to the beginning here. Remember, the left one is the old one, the right one is the new one, and we're going to draw that green line up the back foot, back knee, and back hip. We'll do the same thing over here. And we're going to draw that green dot at the eyes. And let's go ahead and look at the old one. So here's your knee lift. And there's where you separate your hands. Let's do the same thing over here. Watch the knee lift. Now you're going to see that you're going to thrust your hip towards the target before you separate your hands. And there's the hand separation. And what you've noticed here is, look at how your eyes have tracked a little bit more forward. You're doing a little bit better of a job leading with your hip here. And you got more distance with your hip, your back hip, from this green line, and your knee. And the angle of your back leg looks a lot better. Whereas before, we didn't get much with these eyes going towards home plate. We didn't get as much with our back hip. And the angle of our back leg isn't really driving towards home plate here. And you can see the big difference with this front leg and front hip versus what we have going on right here. So you can see that there's better momentum and weight shift before you separate your hands. And as a result, you're going to see a difference when your front foot lands. There's your front foot lands right there. And we'll do the same thing over here. And you'll see now, it's not perfect, but your front shoulder is a little bit more close to being closed. It's still opened up a little bit, but it's a lot better. Your elbows are much better in terms of how they're lined up. And you're in a much more powerful position to throw the baseball. I like how your glove is up here, nice and firm, whereas down here, your glove was already pulling away from your body because you were moving so slow down the mound. And so this is a good, strong position to throw from. And if we pulled up Curt Schilling, you're going to see that's a little bit more closer to where you need to be. Not exactly. I know we can get a little bit more with our legs here, but at least you look a little bit better on this upper half, and things are in sync. So I'm really excited about the improvements that you're already making, and I know you're going to continue to make even better improvements. So let's keep that up, and in the next video we'll talk about how you can make those improvements.